It's day number 4 of my journey to Grandmaster. Today I'm gonna play a training game against one of the viewers of our channel. He's also looking forward to become a Grandmaster. He's only 14 years old, but he's incredibly talented. He started to play chess just 1 year ago and he's already at 2000 rated level. So, I mean, that's amazing. The endgame we played that has so many tactics in it, so many sacrifices. We were both completely shocked with it in the game review, and you have a chance to take a look at both of us thinking and commenting on the moves, compare our decision-making process, and apply the principles we are talking about in your own games to reach your chess goals as fast as possible. What's up, chess player, and welcome to the Journey to Grandmaster, the place where you can improve every single aspect of your chess game. Let's play this training game against our viewer here. He is going through the same challenge as I am. He wants to become a Grandmaster one day. He's young and talented, and hopefully he's gonna achieve his goal. And let's play. I'm gonna explain. Sorry, I forgot that the idea is I'm talking when it's my move and my opponent is discussing, somehow commenting his ideas when it's his turn. I really need to focus on that because otherwise it's going to be very confusing. Anyway, that is a training game for us and we are gonna play it and analyze it together so you can compare the thought process behind the moves for both of us, and hopefully it's going to be very instructive for you. So we are starting with this fielder defense and I'm gonna play knight f6. That is my favorite opening here.
Okay, he goes knight f6, targeting this pawn. I got I think I just defend with the knight, just going knight c3. All very basic so far.
Okay, my opponent plays the main line here, knight to c3. I'm wondering whether he has prepared that variation because, well, that is not a secret that I'm playing the fielder defense pretty often. But I really like that opening. By the way, I have made a dedicated video when I play on all levels this opening from 500 to 2000. That is incredibly instructive. You see what kind of challenges you get. I can sincerely recommend you take a look at this opening because it's very underrated and it's very solid. I mean, you can play it against anybody from beginner till grandmaster. So that is absolute my recommendation if you are looking for an opening where you don't need to learn the openings for like thousands of years, but you want to get a very good position with a lot of ideas. That is exactly what you get here. Okay, so let me play e5. That is the starting position of the fielder defense. By the way, a lot of people are referring to the pierced defense, but I never play the pierced defense. That begins with the move g6. I never do that. I play e5, and that is called the fielder defense.
So he goes e5, a logical move, striking into the center. Probably his idea is to play an endgame, and yeah, he says he's a stronger endgame player. So it's I think this is it feels like very trash line. I mean, I take the queen, but I'm not sure if there are any tricks. I don't see anything. Being pawn takes, and trading queens, and then developing the bishop looks really logical. I could also play after it knight to f3. f4 is also an idea. So takes, 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 takes. And then I have multiple ways. I can also play bishop g4, f5, pinning the knight of the king. But yeah, of course, I think trading is here the right way to go. I could also play d5, closing the center. But mm, let's say like it I don't want it to get this position too positional, because I'm not the best positional player. So I just say taking is the right way to go, and I'm gonna do this.
Okay, my opponent is going for the endgame. Not that many people on this channel, when I play the fielder defense, are going for the endgame, so it's going to be very instructive. What kind of, because so many people are afraid of that. There's like, yeah, fielder defense is an interesting opening, but if they take, I have to go into that endgame, and then my king is in the center, and that's very scary. It's absolutely not. That endgame is more than fine for black, and hopefully I'm gonna prove it to you right now in this concrete game. Let's see what happens.
Okay, pawn takes, as expected. Um, there is no other way, and now as I said I'm gonna trade the queens in this position. Yeah, the queen takes, king has to take, and then I don't know. I'm not sure. There is a way to play f4 with this isolated pawn in the middle. Lord does this way, and with this quick develop bishop, but he don't. First of all, he doesn't have to take, and second of all, if he takes, I have this isolated pawn. I'm faster in development, but in long term, I don't like to play with isolated because it's quite complicated. Um, there's also this bishop e3 move. There's this bishop really active. It's not a bad move. I can also go knight f3, but yeah, feels after the queen trade a little bit I know. I wanna keep this option to play f4. I'm not gonna play it right now after the queen trades and then f4 because but I wanna keep the option for quite a bit time. So I'm just gonna trade queens and then I probably play bishop g5 and yeah, looks good. Then he goes bishop e7, knight f3, castles, bishop c4, knight c6, castles. Then he can develop this bishop to, for example, f3, pinning my. Not it's not pinning. My queen is traded. Right, my queen is traded. Yeah, important detail. But he can play it and try to follow my pawns. But okay, I'm trading the queens. I think that's the right way to go.
Okay, I'm frankly not that sure what my opponent was thinking about because apart from queen d8, there is no real opportunity. Like you can play bishop d3, but that's a very passive move. Otherwise, I can't even imagine a move. I mean, if you allow leg to take on d1, why on earth would you do that? Also not clear. So I would be curious to see what my opponent was thinking about here. Anyway, I don't have any choice. I have to take back.
Okay. Now I like this bishop g5 move, as I said. After bishop g5, he can go like, for example, bishop e7, but then I can long castle with a check to the king. Probably he's gonna play something like king e8. I think king e8 looks logical. He can also play knight d7 or bishop d7, but I don't think you really wanna pin yourself in this position. So, and he's can't castle, so yeah. So I traded the queens, and now bishop g5, bishop g5. After bishop g5, he doesn't have to play bishop e7. He can also play knight bd7. Now I'm not sure if you say knight d7 because his knight is pinned. Okay, I don't care. So yeah, he can play knight d7, and he can also just ignore it and say that if I give up my bishop pair, I'm just stupid. Like because it's a quite open position. Here open lines. It's not so close. The center is close, but I think bishops are strong. So not sure. I could go on bishop e3. Hmm. E3. Bishop. No, I think I go bishop g5. This looks right.
Okay, bishop g5, that is one of the main lines, kind of preparing the move long castles. Here it's very important for black to make sure that this knight is not coming to d5, and basically in all of the Philidor defense variations, c pawn belongs to the square c6, just making sure that everything is absolutely solid, everything is absolutely fine, so you just must make this move. Remember, that's a very good thing to do.
Okay. He goes c6, and the idea is very simple, just to prevent my knight to jump into any of those squares. He says that he's ready to give up the to double his pawns, but playing with the bishop pair. And I really like long castle in this position, just with a check, activating a rook with a tempo. And yeah, I just feel like that's the right move. Don't think I have to think long. It just feels right.
Yeah, long castles, that's a logical next step, but I'm never afraid of that check because I always have this opportunity to play 97, covering the check, and I'm also never afraid of bishop takes f6 because otherwise I'm gonna be, after this exchange, I'm gonna be having a bishop's pair, and those pawns are actually very solid. Like, double pawns are overestimated. Don't be afraid of it like it's the biggest nightmare you might face in your life. That's not that bad. If there is no pawns for your opponent on the same file, then yeah, those pawns might be very weak. If the rook would be there on f1, attacking it, and you don't have an easy way to defend it, that might be problematic. But it's like a separate case scenario where it might be a problem. But otherwise, often times those pawns can actually be very solid. For example, that pawn on f6, imagine the knight on f3, not allowing the knight to get anywhere. The g file is going to be open. Whenever you have open double pawns, you have an open file. So overall, I'm not afraid of bishop takes f6, and otherwise I just play knight d7 according to my plan.
So he goes knight 7, and yeah, logical blocking a check. And now there's this knight is pinned, and this knight is also pinned. So okay, that's what I find a little bit annoying. Is that he can go bishop b4, right? And after it, he doesn't threaten to take because his knight is still pinned. But I really don't like this double isolated pawns and this isolated pawn, because if I take here, they're doubled. They are doubled. This is isolated, but they're not doubled and isolated because there's still this pawn there. And if I allow bishop b4, I'm not sure where I want my knight to be. Maybe to reround it to e2, g3, and f5. But that's taking much too. Yeah, it's right now. It's taking too much moves. Because there's still this undeveloped set pieces in the back rank. So what I'm thinking is about is first of all the move a3, just to prevent him from going bishop b4. Mm, b4. But let's say, for example, I go knight f3, he goes bishop b4. Hmm. Bishop b4. Then I can take this pawn, right? So if I go here, I'm trying to take the pawn because this knight is pinned to the king. And he gotta do something against this. Knight f3, he can, for example, play something like king c7, or he can go king e8. But knight f3 is the right way to go because it's creating a threat, and in chess, you want to create a threat. Your opponent has reacted them, so I feel like knight f3 is the right way. Yeah, and then see what he does. What can he also play? Um, yeah, what can he play? Can he somehow? No, there's no bishop d6. I just take, and probably his best move after it is king c7, and then I have to think what I'm gonna do. Probably then I go a3, or I take. The question, because if I take, if knight takes, it would be this pawn hanging. So let's go knight f3. I'm not playing f4. It's I just think it's now not the right moment.
Okay, that goes to f3. And now, by the way, that's still mainline theory here in the bishop g5 variation. I mean, there are some f4 ideas, bishop c4, obviously, but knight f3 is one of the main lines. Attacking the pawn on e5, of course, my knight is pinned. And now, there are two moves that black can make, king to e8 and king to c7. I know that king to c7 is objectively the best one, but when your opponent doesn't know a lot of theory, and by the way, I'm a little bit worried for my opponent that he's spending so much time in the very beginning of the game. Even though we don't have the queens on the board, the game is going to be a long one, and that might be a problem for him later on. But that's his stuff. For me, it's important to decide where the king should go. Now, I know that king c7 is objectively stronger, but in this game, I'm gonna play king e8 because that is also a very tricky move. And like I said, if your opponent doesn't know exactly how to punish it, then it might be a very interesting idea. So let's go for it.
He goes king e8, logical, going out of the pin, but now not the knight is hanging, and there are no checks in this position. What can I capture? I can, for example, catch a pawn, but then the knight will just recapture, and I won't achieve anything. I could also capture this knight. Pawn takes is almost forced because if he takes with the knight, this pawn would be hanging. I can also capture this, but it won't do anything. You can also just save the knight, and that's really bad. And active move, I have this bishop c4. So now it's the question: am I taking or gonna go bishop c4? Mm. What does he want to play if I go bishop c4? Probably he goes something like knight c5. No, he can't go knight c5 because this pawn would be hanging. Pawn is quite weak. I have to go somehow and attack it. It's not so easy. I think bishop c4 is the right way because my bishop is really active right now. I feel like it can always drop back, and yeah, I would double his pawns, but I want to keep the position with more pieces that I still have a chance to win, or um it's the game is gonna be a little bit longer. So let's go bishop c4.
Okay, the bishop is finally going to c4, but that is exactly the moment where the pawn on f7 is not hanging anymore, and that is why I played king e8 in the first place to protect it. Bishop c4 is a little bit stronger when the king goes to c7 because, well, the pawn is really in trouble. This time I can actually immediately play the move b5. There are some tricks with bishop takes b5, takes, and knight takes b5, and the knight is threatening that fork. I have rook b8, knight c7 check, king d8. I just remember there is one case when I should not play b5 immediately because it might be dangerous, and otherwise that's always fine. So takes, takes, takes. Rook b8, knight c7 check, king goes to d8, attacking that knight, knight goes back to d5, and now that pawn on e5 is also hanging. And it's a little bit annoying in terms of all of those pins, like how do you get rid of it? If I play bishop e7, he is still taken on e5, I take there, he takes here with a check, I go king e8, God knows what happens there. I mean, I guess I'm not obliged to take that risk. I can just start with bishop c5 and then play b5 next move. Although, yeah, maybe in some variations I want to place my knight on c5 rather than the bishop. But this time it's not that simple because, well, there is a knight on f3 always attacking the pawn, so maybe bishop c5 makes perfect sense here. I'm attacking the f2 pawn and I'm ready for the move b5, so let me go for it.
Okay, he plays bishop c5. Um, he is threatening to take this pawn. Um, I I'm first looking about for example bishop e3, but that's too passive. I would double my pawn. It's just really bad. Um, can I also play I maybe it's not that bad because if he takes, I have rook h f1, and after bishop goes, I have maybe some is there's more threats, like for example some discovered. Not so easy. Mm, maybe I can drop back to go knight g5. Also in plan. Mm, maybe I'm thinking about takes. To threaten this pawn, but he can defend like this. Then I go rook d1. No, then you can go maybe bishop e6. Okay, not good. I could also just defend the pawn. I can play rook d2, try to stack the rooks. Might actually be. I just have to be careful on this diagonal. Hmm. I like this. I like rook d2. Okay, I gotta speed up.
Okay, he's playing rook d2. That is a normal, completely normal, typical way of protecting the f2 pawn. But b5 idea now is even more powerful because if I play b5 and then b4 attacking that knight and it goes away, well, knight takes e4 might be not that convenient for him to deal with because it's attacking so much stuff, not even mention the fact that e4 pawn is going to be lost. But at some point, very important to remember in this Philidor endgame, you should be careful with grabbing that e4 pawn, because if you are not, then this rook is coming along the e file, and remember your king cannot castle, and then once the file is going to be opened, well, that might end very, very poorly. So be careful and make sure to check the variation before you do that. But there is absolutely nothing stopping me from playing b5 in the first place, because, well, sacrifices don't really work anymore. The king has a lot of squares. I mean, absolutely no problem. So I'm gonna go for b5, and let's see what happens. After bishop b3, I also have a5 ideas, threatening a4, and then when he plays a3, then this pawn comes to b4 with a double attack, basically. There is an argument for knight a4, though, once that happens, and he's putting some pressure on the bishop on c5, but well, that's protected, and once the knight jumps to e4, it also protects the bishop, so I don't think that's going to be a big problem. I'm gonna go for b5. That's a very normal counterplay in the Philidor defense and pretty much all of the variations, but especially in this Philidor endgame, especially if there is a bishop on c4, and I have an opportunity to do it with the tempo, so there's absolutely no reason not to do it.
Okay. He goes b5, attacking my bishop, and then he wants to play something like a5, for example, and then maybe trying to trap, but then I can just play a3. I should be fine. I have to speed up, so I can't talk for too long and say my moves because I'm really low on time. Um, um, just that I say, my idea is to go bishop h4, and the idea is not only to reround and attack the pawn, also an idea is to go knight g5. But first, I gotta play bishop b3, going out of the attack. If he goes b4, I just go knight a5, and I should be fine.
Okay, bishop does go to b3. I should mention that, of course, bishop d3 is possible, if, in case you're wondering. I mean, you're protecting the pawn, everything is solid, but you rather don't want to make such a move as white, because you're going backwards and you're blocking your rook. I mean, you want to take advantage of this open d file, at least it seems like that. You're controlling it, you want to double the rooks along that file, so bishop d3 doesn't seem like a move you want to make. But if you are playing bishop b3, which is more active, then you need to take into account what's going to happen after those b4 ideas, after those a5 ideas, because that's basically just threatening to win the bishop. The bishop has absolutely no squares to go. I just need to make sure that I'm fine with all of the tactical complications, for example, rook d1, because if, for example, he sacrifices the knight and I take it back, he has rook d8, even a check, I go away and he grabs my rook. And then he's also pinning this bishop. I mean, that's not that great. But I do have my point as well. So a5, rook to d1, a4, trapping the bishop. Now knight takes e5. I have two ways to go about it. I can just take the bishop. I believe that should be good enough, because among other things, I'm also threatening b takes a, and then that pawn would be unstoppable, forcing white to sacrifice the knight for it. So some kind of knight c6 move is just not possible. And if he takes back, then maybe I can even take on e5 and get in two pieces um, for a rook, but it's not necessary. I can just, yeah, c6 pawn is also hanging. Maybe protect the c6 pawn with the rook there, because remember that a file is going to be opened, maybe starting with the check, so that this knight goes away, and then playing rook a6, protecting the pawn. Do I have any alternatives for the move a5? That's also a question, like, yeah, b4. b4 is a straightforward alternative, but typically I always want to include the move a5 before playing the move b4, because if he plays a3, then I have some additional opportunity, that pawn would be hanging and so on. But b4 is also a very direct move, so knight a4 seems to be the most active move. I play knight takes e4, I'm attacking the rook. Yeah, let's say rook e2, just trying to take advantage of that file. I take there, he takes. I do remember that I lost a game like that against Alireza Firouzja, so I don't have good memories of that, and it does feel like this f7 pawn is hanging. If I go forward, then knight f7, a bit annoying, although maybe I have rook f8, but then f4. I mean, there are some tricks. I really want to start with a5 to grab more space on the queen side. That is the source of black's counterplay. Let me do that.
Okay, I expected that move. But as I told, I go a3. Yeah, and after e4.
Okay, my opponent goes for a3, and he's basically screaming at me, play b4. I don't think I really have an alternative. I mean, I do need to do something active. I cannot just stay passive there. I can just play king e7 and then play normally, but if I have a chance to play actively, I always want to do that. Another idea is knight g4, also typical, attacking that f2 pawn, and then play f6 and remaneuver my knight back to there, but yeah. Somehow, normally if b4 is possible, then I should go for it. Knight a4, if I take there, he takes here, I take it back. Or no, I also have a check there first. King takes, I take here back, he takes there, I take there, he takes there. I cannot take there because of checkmate in 1, that's very important to remember, but I do have some bishop e6 to save everything, and then at least I'm good to go, but well, e6 is also hanging. So that is a quite a double-edged variation there. But I still want to go. I mean, knight g4 is a solid alternative. Almost, almost no chance that it's going to be problematic for me. I mean, bishop h4 is a typical move. I play f6, he plays h3, I play knight h6. Then this knight goes back via f7. But I don't attack the pawn anymore. The bishop has better prospects. Yeah, let me go for a more active alternative, as I pretty much always do.
He goes b4. I expected that move. I draw some arrows, and this idea is to take. And yes, and my knight. And I calculated knight a4 takes, takes, check, takes, knight takes, then that I could take this pawn. But now I see this move rook b8 first for him. And also he can just trade off. And then go rook b8, and he has this threat of a4. But I don't see other good. If I take, this looks just bad because after my knight moves there, I always have to be careful of some mates. Right now, I can always I can block with the knight. Takes. He can also take with the bishop. Yeah, I go knight a4. I want to have a little bit fun. Yeah, so I go knight a4.
Okay, the knight really goes to a4. I mean, that is basically the only logical move I see, because if you take on b4 first, then opening up that a file normally should favor black, although with the knight a4 you block it, but then you don't have any threats to take the bishop because of checkmate in 1. Here you have such an idea. So yeah, I can of course just go back to a7 and then say that this knight is pretty useless on a4 and still attack the pawn on a4, but of course he's gonna protect it somehow, and then how do I continue? Not really that clear. Alternative is, of course, to go directly for b takes a. I guess that is what I wanted to do in the first place, so let me try it.
Okay, he takes. As I said, I just take here.
Yeah, knight takes c5. I guess we are entering the part of the game where it's going very, very sharp. By the way, I also had the move knight takes e4 instead of that, but then I mentioned this whole variation with rook e2 and then hanging pawns and so on. I thought this variation is more safe for me. Now the question is whether I take on b2 or I play knight c5, because, well, I can argue that if he spends a tempo on that, then I have a move to take on e4 with the tempo again. With this knight though, because with this knight it's going to be checkmate in 1 again. And if he takes here on e5, I can actually still take that guy. Right, with a fork. Yeah, I like that. I guess I kind of win a tempo if he takes. If he doesn't take, then I still have a chance to take it later on, or maybe play a4 and or take here and have a2. it's going to be more difficult for him this way.
Okay. He takes the knight. Was it the knight? Yeah. What I didn't really expect. Um, I wasn't so sure if this. He once has pressure on this pawn. For example, I take. He takes here. Then I go here, check. And if the king goes there, that's gonna be then I have this check, king there. Then I can take this with check and I'm fine. Where am I? Let me think. Oh, not an easy position. With so low on time. It just feels right to take this pawn if I look me at its position because we take like this, that's mace, so he has to take like this. And for example, here. Yeah, I think that's the right way. Knight takes e5.
Yeah, he goes for knight x5. I guess he should. And now, yeah, the fact that f7 pawn is hanging is actually a problem, but maybe it still makes sense for me just to take there, and then, of course, not taking here because of checkmate in 1, but play bishop e6. I'm creating that threat because d8 is covered, and I still keep that pawn. Maybe in the right moment it's gonna go forward, and if he wants to take, then he needs to spend a tempo on it. And very important, once I take there and he takes on c6, then this c file is going to be open, and I want to take advantage of that thanks to rook to c8. So let's see.
Okay, takes the bishop. I just take back. I'm not missing anything, okay.
Yeah, now a2 doesn't make a lot of sense because just king c2, I don't really achieve much. But I wanted to play bishop to e6, that is protecting that checkmate. So now knight takes e4 is a threat. He doesn't have any time to take here. And if he takes there, then I take it and the knight is hanging. If he takes, then I have rook to c8, he plays rook c2, the only way to save. Well, there is also rook d6. Yeah, that's actually something I missed. Oh, wait, I play bishop d7 back and then I win the knight. It doesn't work. If he plays rook c2, then I wanted to play bishop takes b3 and then a2. That feels good. Let me go for it.
He goes bishop e6. He wants to grab this pawn. Hmm. When I take here, he takes maybe here. Okay. So I think we can take this. We take here, he takes here, we take here. Goes here. Then maybe I take. I should be clean pawn up and you can always drop the. This looks right.
Okay, my opponent takes on a3, but what happens if I take there? I missed anything? X, I just take it. Otherwise, I don't see how he handles this fork. Unless I'm blind suddenly, I don't see what he's supposed to do. Otherwise, I'm just winning an exchange.
Takes there. Interesting. Yeah, right. Now there's not this maze thread anymore. Oh. Oh god. It's so bad. Okay. I go bishop e3, he takes, I take back, he takes this pawn, take here. Not good. Really not good, but I have to go there.
My opponent is getting really low on time, and I have mentioned it before, he should have played faster, but yeah, the problem is the same, he's just losing an exchange. I don't think I have something better than knight x, so let me take. Bishop takes. Now that pawn is still hanging, but if you take it, there is still this pin. So I guess I can just play f6 and kick it away. Just to start the whole variation. Or maybe just take there and then get back here and protect that. Yeah, I guess that is rook e1 though. A little bit annoying. Yeah, I guess I want to play f6 just to have f7 square for my king.
And he finds this move too. Let's go knight d3. Yeah, it's so bad how I play. Okay, knight d3.
Yeah, I haven't really considered knight c4, but I guess it's never a problem for me because I can just exchange and yeah, the more pieces are going off the board, the simpler it is for me. But now I can just grab a pawn. Rook e1, I have king f7, don't see any problem.
Knight c5.
Knight to c5, yeah. Apparently he wants to create something dangerous for me, but once again, I don't get it. The king is very, very safe on f7. Of course, I have not to blunder the bishop there.
My hope is that he just overlooks something and blunders. What is quite rare to change. Chance. I don't know how to say. Let's go rook e1 check.
Maybe there was an argument for knight b7 with some checks, but like it's never enough. I will always find a square for the king.
Let's go g3.
Okay, g3, it's time. Never forget that the golden principle is to bring all of your pieces into the game. Doesn't matter whether it's opening or endgame. Doesn't matter if I have extra material, if I don't use it. So of course, rook e8, I have to exchange as well. Another golden principle. If you have extra material, try to exchange as many pieces as possible.
Rook e8. Let's go to e3.
Goes to e3. Yeah, I guess it's time for me to activate second rook.
Goes there. Knight a6, knight a6. Knight a6. Rook b3. Here. I have.
Knight goes to a6. Yeah, I thought he would like to go forward and at least create a few threats. That's logical, but the problem is he's no longer controlling the b3 square, which I take advantage of.
It's there. Let's go here.
It's a 7, yeah, kind of a fork, but as long as the bishop is protected, I'm never afraid of it. Like I said, if you have extra material, you're absolutely fine with exchanges, 99% of cases.
There. Looks lost.
Okay, I guess rook b1 doesn't really work because in the end of the day he plays king c3 and attacks my my rook there. I can still go for it, but I don't see any necessity. I can just take.
So sad.
Yeah, that pawn on a2 was hanging. That's why he played bishop c5, but unfortunately it's a blunder since rook c3 wins bishop.
Yeah. Yeah. Come, GG.
Okay, let's take a look at the game review together. Okay, so let's discuss the game. You see here you have 77% accuracy. I have 88. Shouldn't be that bad. See what. Oops. So here was the first moment you started to think. You said bishop g5 is one of the main moves, so it's all fine. Long castles is also fine. I mean, you have an active rook. Now I play knight to d7. And yeah, at which points did you face some difficulties here?
Mm, I I have said I didn't really. The position was quite easy, but to come on a good move, I was really low on time, and I saw the clock. And why I played at the end quite bad was because I couldn't calculate some stuff. For example, at one point, I could have won two pieces for a rook.
Wait. Maybe we are gonna see it in the concrete moves because otherwise it's very difficult for people to follow your variation. Let's talk about concrete moves here somewhere. Maybe here it was. Wait.
Yeah, here for example, here I was I got low on time, and one move later I saw this bishop h4 idea to go knight g5 and to go bishop g3. Yes, the idea is to go here and bishop g3 and add more pressure to this weak pawn.
Exactly.
Um,
Bishop h4 is one of the very interesting ideas, and I have mentioned king e8 is actually not that great because of that reason, but I wasn't sure whether you know that bishop h4 is the right idea or not. Fortunately, I haven't used it. Yeah, that's actually interesting. Knight g5 is almost never a good idea because I can just protect it, and exchanging two pieces for rook is like never ever is a good idea. Two pieces are always stronger, and one pawn is not enough to compensate it. But that is very interesting idea to put pressure on this central pawn. Black can also do that with their bishop, and then it's here on c7 protecting once again.
when you got before you played b5, I thought about, oh, I'm so bad. I saw I could have gone bishop h4 and I was a bit mad of it because, and then you played b5, and I couldn't follow my plan with bishop h4 and this.
Yeah, it's getting pretty sharp and pretty tactical here. I mean, you can still play bishop d3, but I assume you didn't want to make this move because it feels pretty passive. I mean, you protect the pawn like that, you close your file. It's not a move you want to make normally.
You have to think quite long to understand the plan.
Yeah,
I played if I would have had 1 hour, I think, on the clock because the idea is very deep.
yeah, and the engine, surprisingly enough, suggests here some crazy variations, like rook h to d1, for example, takes, and then knight x e5. I haven't even considered that. Well, I know that it's an interesting idea because, well, you have rook d8 otherwise, if I take on e5, but you're giving up the whole piece, and that should work here for white. I mean, it's equal according to the engine. Interesting. And
But
another, and another idea also sacrifices knight takes b5 here. Then you take with the bishop. That is more normal one. Like when you play b5, you kind of expect your opponent might sacrifice like that. But I also thought it's not dangerous enough. Apparently, it's enough at least to have a balanced position. Have you thought about some sacrifices here?
I thought about rook, some kind of this, like to go at some point knight takes e5. This was the reason why I thought for so long. I looked if there's something that I can apply to try to sacrifice, but it doesn't work. So, um, but rook h d1 is a tough move to find.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
I
count it.
agree. If I would have sacrificed something, it would be knight x b5, not rook d1. Rook d1 is very tough. Okay, so you played bishop b3, and then a5 is another typical idea. Now a4 is a threat just to grab your bishop, basically. So you played a3, but you see it's a mistake here. What was the right move? Once again, just to sacrifice with the same idea, I guess. a4, wow, and now you can just take it and take here. That seems very aggressive.
I would never in 100 years see this move. I
Yeah,
think it's even tough for Grandmaster to spot something like this.
yeah,
Probably.
well, I have to be honest, when I played a4, I haven't anticipated bishop a4 at all.
But if anybody would have played the sacrifice, you can just report it from cheating. I think if this is gonna play a 2K and it's the best move, I think more obvious cheating is not working.
Well, everything is possible, especially for those sharp players who like to sacrifice stuff, who like to be as active as possible. Well, it does make sense when you think about it. All of your pieces are taking part in this attack. You're giving up one of them so that everyone else is just going on, going forward. As long as, well, my development is not ideal, you had that chance to pick up a lot of materials. And I was thinking about some sacrifices from your side at some point, but not about this exact one here, and b4 seems to be a miss. What was the right move? Yeah, a4. I thought about it for a little bit, and then b4. But I thought that here I'm not directly attacking your pawn, so you can just protect it. But apparently it's just very good for black. Yeah, almost +2. That is very surprising. Maybe, yeah, I also have a3 idea, right? And then you have problems along this diagonal. There is a rook as well. Yeah, does feel unpleasant.
What
But I play.
surprised me in this game was I tried to think as good as I thought. Normally, 15 plus 10 is too much time for me, and I'm thinking, I don't know, I don't know what to think. But in this game, I was at the end like, oh, don't have much more time in the board, but still, this position was so complicated for both sides, but even more for you as black. So
Yeah, definitely. That is like it might seem like it's an end game, so you don't need a lot of time, you don't need to think that much, but it's actually a pretty tricky position. Okay, so let's see. Before knight goes to a4, and now I took here. Wow, that's a huge mistake.
yeah,
Bishop
I had a sacrifice takes, not sacrifice, but I missed it too. Now I think I don't know. Yeah, I could have sacked the rook here,
takes.
right? And then I would have get two pieces. Um, I, I think if I would have had more time, I maybe would have spotted after like 20 minutes if I look for all checks, captures. But it's also quite tough to see if you have only 5 4 minutes in the clock.
Hmm. Yeah, that's my mistake. I completely missed that. I kind of automatically took on a3. I shouldn't have done that. The right move, I was thinking about bishop a7, but the right move is bishop to e7. Yeah, it's a little bit more on the defensive side. I didn't want to be passive. I wanted to go forward, but yeah, somehow in this point I didn't think of. Yeah, because I cannot take with the knight. The bishop is hanging, and then you take on d7. That's actually huge. And even knight takes e5 is also a huge move, a big advantage for white.
I saw something like this, like that your knight is protecting some pieces. Has your d7 knight is really important. I saw this, um, but um, I couldn't calculate all these lines because the time was just too low. What I learned out of this game is that I have to know when I spend time. I spend it much too much time the opening on which piece to develop first. I was too excited and didn't want to do a mistake, and I should just play a little bit faster. And then
Yeah, definitely. You have spent half of your time in the first like 7 moves. That is way too much. And here you definitely need more time to try to understand what's happening here. Okay, so takes you took here, and then it's pretty balanced, and you took on e5, which is already a mistake. That you should have. Yeah, I was anticipating something like that, and then suddenly I don't have any way to take because here it's obviously checkmate in one. And if I take with this knight, that's also not that great because just rook e2. And then always this e file is getting opened and my king is still in trouble. So it's difficult for me to take that pawn. I thought I'm gonna take like that and then play bishop e6 and attack here, but the position is around equal. So that would be normal. Instead, you played knight takes e5 immediately and then gave me this chance because now suddenly you have a lot of problems. You have this pawn hanging with a fork. Apparently you have missed it. And also if you take here, then there is this annoying pin. At least that was my idea. And also there is this pawn that at some point might go forward, and I don't know, in some variations might be also annoying. For example, here I thought if you do that, then I have bishop takes b3 or a2 in some order, and then yeah, that pawn is very annoying to fight against.
what I thought when I played this bad move, this mistake, knight e5, I didn't had so much time, like I was under 3 or 2 minutes, something like this, and I just said that you had at this point, I think, a little bit more time, and I knew that if I keep the position too complicated for more moves, I think, and I get under 10 seconds, it would be bad. So I just thought I have to go for it, or I don't have enough time to figure out what's happening.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. But this 94, you just blundered it, right? When you played
Yeah,
big
I
eight.
thought already that this would be a bad move, and after I played it, I realized it might be quite bad this move.
It's
But actually,
actually
I had it. defense, yeah, that's tough to see because after you take my bishop, your knight is just trapped after f3.
Ah, okay, that's the problem.
H4.
Yeah, I never thought about it.
But that's really tough to see that your knight has so many is like
Hmm.
it can be tough to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine here, but you're also fine. It's around equal. Yeah, that's very interesting variation. So you see, there are so many tactics, even though that's pretty much endgame, but still pieces are flying around, so many complications, and Rook E2 is, yeah, a very interesting resource. Unfortunately, I haven't found it, and afterwards it became a pretty technical position. Everything falls apart, and there is no way for White to create any complications.
My hope was that you miss all your time and like see look at the clock, oh 1 second and lose on time, but yeah, of course you didn't. You're too strong to plunder the time.
Yeah, when you have 10-second increment, that's normally not a problem. But well, that was a very interesting game. I hope you learned a lot here. What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts about the game, I just say, mm, after this game, I just say you played just really well. I think I played it to some point. I played it also well, but I my time management wasn't great in this game. That's what I learned out of it, and yeah, and that's like what I learned. I think I have the ability to calculate some variations, even quite far, but not so fast. I'm considering for my opponent a lot of moves where I'm just much too scary. I just think um, I have to look, I have to calculate just more faster maybe and not spend too much time in the opening. I didn't know the opening, that's why I spent so much time. And maybe I thought when I played it, okay, it's an opening where I don't know the series so far, and yeah, so I spent it much more time.
Yeah, yeah, but I hope you learned a lot. Thank you very much for this game. Wow, what a game it was. In this video, I played the Philidor defense against opponents from 500 to 2000 and explained all of the ideas in the process, so you're absolutely ready to try it in your own games and beat everyone around you.